That's great.
All right. Well, Lenora, thank you so much for joining us today. We're glad to have you. And we were just talking about, being a CEO. It's 2020. There's a lot going on in the world, and I'd just love to start there and get your thoughts on what is it like to be a CEO today?
Well, first of all, Tom, I just want to thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to participate. But there are many challenges today, trying to fill the shoes of a CEO. So many things that have impacted our ability to work hard with our employees and with our board of directors and being able to fulfill all of the strategic goals that we may have in planned, especially after dealing with the pandemic, which has we've been struggling for the last 10 months, on trying to make sure that we can do everything that we possibly can based on the conditions that we're up under and providing services to all of the children, families that come to our organization. So it's very, very challenging today.
Yeah, and just this last week or two, there's actually been some vaccines starting to be used in different countries. So it seems like we're maybe starting to cross that breaking point or that tipping point towards a different future. I'm curious, how do you lead through such a challenging time as this?
We have to really take into consideration what our employees are dealing with. There has just been so many things that has impacted their lives. Their employees with small children, the school systems, a lot of them are closed and they're doing virtual schooling. So we have to be very accommodating to allow staff to work remotely so that they could be home working as well as being there taking care of their children. So there are just so many things that I have learned today as being a CEO that I have to change. I have to learn how to be more flexible in this environment. And that has been a challenge for me, and I've been learning and growing through it. But I see the difference that it's making in the lives of all of my employees by being accommodating to address them during these crises that we're facing right now.
I love that you're talking about serving your employees, but really you're starting with yourself. How do I, as the leader, how do I, as the CEO, need to change? Can you give us some examples of what you've had to change?
I have had a chance to meet with all of my department heads to take a look at every employee and identify who is capable as far as when it comes to their job responsibilities and will be able to do it from their home or to provide remote work. And so that's where I first started. And we identified out of 400 employees, how many of those employees we could actually place on remote work. So that's where I first started. And it was a change for me because, I was so used to, you work all day and then you go home. But, I'm a part of the baby boomer. Baby boomers, we work from sun up to sundown. And so this new environment today with millennials, I have to change and be more understanding and be more flexible. And so I'm learning, and there's a lot that we've done. And I see how my staff are so appreciative of allowing them to be able to do those things and be there with their children because their families come first.
Yeah. Well, I hear in that a deep work ethic too from you, Lenora. That I'm curious, where did you get that work ethic, you think?
Well, I'm a Southern girl, born and raised in Selma, Alabama, and a father and mother that instilled in me from an early age that, in order to achieve anything out of life, you got to work very hard for it. You have to be committed. You've got to have your all of your morals and you've got to be a person that is just going to, you're going to start a job and you're going to be there until that job or that task is completed. So it started at a very early age and I was just raised in that type of environment and that's who I am today. I just believe in that. But a part of it is I come from that culture of baby boomers. And so it's quite different now compared to millennials.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how do you find a middle ground? Because I'm in my 40s, so I feel like I'm kind of in the middle and can see the value of both. I can see the value of being flexible, of meeting people where they are, allowing families to come first, but it comes with a great deal of responsibility. It doesn't allow you to sit at home and watch Netflix all day, right? So how do you find that balance that allows for people to learn from your deep work ethic, but also have the flexibility that they desire?
So, even starting with myself, I had to learn um, how to make time for Lenora. And that was not easy to do. That was it was a challenge. And it was something that I knew was going to make me even be a better person, to be a better CEO, that I needed to have time for me. And so what I've started doing is doing simple things like going for a walk, spending time with my husband, trying to get home sometime at a decent hour, that maybe we can watch the news together, just having that time for myself and for my family. And I realized that by doing that, it made me even be better, a
Mm,
person who could, um, I could show and understand, and staff would see in me that the value of having time for yourself and your family is very important, and that it will help you to be even a better employee, because at least some of the things that you need and desire in life are being fulfilled.
mhm,
So it has not been easy.
mhm,
These are things I'm learning now, where I wish I would have really learned 20 years ago.
mm.
But I'm learning now, and I think it has helped me to really understand more about what my employees need in order to make them be a better person, you know, um, a better family member, a better employee. That there are things that they have to have in life that are fulfilling for them as well.
Yeah, yeah. That as a leader, we have to start with ourselves. If we're not able to provide that self care, how can we possibly be able to help others?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. What other advice would you have besides that self care that's so important? What other advice would you have for leaders that are coming up or maybe aspire to be a CEO someday?
Really just make sure that first, number one is that um, you understand what is needed in order to be a leader. And what I look at is, you know, to me, what makes a person be able to um, continue to grow and hopefully become a great leader is, first of all, making sure that you understand all the needs of the people that are working for you, that you are also that you yourself have to make sure that you know how to develop employees, that you are working with individuals to help them grow. You're able to help coach them in certain areas that is going to help to improve where they are, with their skills and abilities. You've got to be, in order to be that great leader, you have to be someone who can really think outside of the box and not just always stay inside. You've got to show innovation, and things that could be done that is really going to be able to improve a business as well as improve, the performance and the expectations of all of the people that are looking up to you. They're looking for growth. They're looking for opportunities. They want to help. So being that leader that can inspire others, where I've always loved, just thinking about, what makes a great leader and being someone who can think strategically, where we are today and where we could be. It's not just about today. We have to think about the future. Where could we be in 2, 3, 5 years? So all of those things are so important. And I think number one is really being able to make sure that you can develop employees and earn their respect and their trust is so key. Because trying to be a leader, nobody trusts you, you'll get nowhere.
Hmm.
So,
You make it sound so easy, Lenora. And I know you make it easy too. You've got several hundred employees, and I know there's a great deal of trust and respect for you. But there's a lot in there. I mean, growth and focus on the future and innovation and building a culture of integrity or of trust. It's a lot. I'd love to hear more on how do you go about that? I think you said the number one thing is really helping people develop, helping them grow. How do you go about that?
So you really, one of the things as far as with if I start with someone who's in a management position, a lot of times, including myself, as I was growing and developing, I didn't know everything. So I had to look to leaders to help guide and direct me, to provide me with training opportunities, you know, further my own staff development. And that's what I see now is looking at individuals and their staff that stand out. You can identify shining stars. You know those who are, they're very aggressive, they want to learn and they want to grow. And so it's starting with individuals like that and really helping them to develop their career path. What else is it that you inspire to achieve, and how can I, as an employer, help you achieve those goals that you have set for yourself? So I just think more of that is what's needed to provide to our employees, to help them along their journey so that they themselves can continue to grow and one day become the future leader of an organization.
Yeah, well, it's so counterintuitive to, I think, the way a lot of people think about it is, how do I get what I need out of them and grow in the way that I want them to grow? And I think what I hear from you is you're looking to, what do they want? How do I help them grow in what they're looking for? And then if I do that effectively, that will actually help the organization grow.
Absolutely. And then there are times that there could be things that people don't see within themselves that would help them to grow and develop, that we have to identify and help them see that if you improve in this area, this is going to make you and be a better manager, better director, a better staff. So being able to identify, things that we see could be a challenge for them, and how can we help them overcome?
There's a lot of talk about sort of difficult conversations or crucial conversations, and sometimes it carries a lot of baggage, in my opinion. That's not healthy. It creates this conflict out of the gate, as opposed to what I hear from you is I need to have direct conversations with people in the context of their growth, in the context of the future that they can grow into. And specifically, as a leader, sometimes we see things in our people that they don't see in themselves.
Absolutely.
We can actually see a greater future for them. And when we talk to them about that, when we get them inspired in that way, then it's amazing how many people can really blossom. Do you have any examples of that for your own career?
Yes, as far as my own career, or someone who I have been able to identify,
someone you've identified to help. Yeah.
So, so something I could really share that I'm very proud of is that I was able to see in an individual that she had all of the skills, knowledge, and abilities to do the job at an executive level. And the employee did not see herself there. And really she did not, because one of the things that is definitely required of a leader is you've got to be able to speak up. You've got to be able to speak in front of crowds of people, or you've got to be able to deliver a message to the board of directors. And the person did not see themselves in that position if they could do that. Because communication, was so key, and it has to be, and just didn't see that they could be one who could communicate and stand in front of people without being really nervous. But I saw beyond that. I saw that spending the time with this individual and really helping them see what they're capable of achieving in life was something that meant so much to me. And I spent time, I started coaching, I started pointing out to that individual, the great job that she was doing and how she could take on more. And in addition to that, I started practicing with her. So let's have a meeting, one-on-one, you and I. And it's like you're presenting to the board. And I want you to stand in front of me and walk me through your presentation. And to see this young lady today, she is outstanding. She's doing a wonderful job. And to see her growth and where she is today compared to just a few years ago is unbelievable. So there's
Mm.
so much that people can do. It's how can we work with them to help bring it out?
Mhm. I love it. I love it. And it then has a domino effect because other people see that, and it starts to become a positive contagion throughout the entire organization, throughout the entire culture. I would imagine for you.
Absolutely, and that's what we want. We want staff to be able to see that here at this organization, it's a possibility that I one day could become a manager, a director, an executive leader, or the CEO. There's a possibility. It's how we apply ourselves. If it's something I really want, then I'm going to go after it. And I'm going to show
Yeah.
that I'm capable of doing it.
I love it.
Mhm.
And they got a CEO who supports them on that journey, which is so much of it, as opposed to a lot of leaders sort of defend their turf. It's that they don't want to take that helping others grow too seriously because they might threaten their own job.
And see, and I look at it as every organization to me, especially as far as a leader, one other thing to me, the success of a great leader is being able to think about what is the organization going to look like when I'm no longer here. And if you can't think like that, if it's all about having the insecurity of being that CEO, you're not preparing that organization for the next leader to come in. And I strongly believe, that succession plan to me is one of the greatest achievements that a leader could put in place, identifying early on that this is the succession plan that I have in place so that board of directors feel comfortable that when that person moves out, that there's a plan, a very good plan on who's moving in. So
What would you tell a CEO who's maybe skeptical of that idea, Lenora? Who's like, I don't know if I agree with that idea of the greatest gift you can give us a succession plan for my job.
yeah, and what I would tell, and I have also already shared with some CEOs, is that we have to embrace succession plan. Succession planning is key. And if we hide from it, we're not going to be successful. So I have shared with people, and what I would say is look at it as if something happened to me today, I want to ensure that tomorrow the success of this organization is just as important tomorrow as it is today. And that I want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to interfere the business from being able to move forward and that will interfere with my executive leadership staff or my directors to understand what is needed to be done and that this business can continue to thrive and survive and to be there. And it's hard for CEOs to look at that, but it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and to have the active engagement with your board, and so it's an intentional future versus up, I'm going to retire. You got to go find somebody quickly, which happens way more than I think it should.
It's not the right thing to do because any an individual who thinks like that is not going to have people ready, has not been developing their team to be ready to move up.
Yeah, which begins to impact the culture because it starts to dampen any potential future. It's
Absolutely.
they don't have a CEO that supports that kind of growth like you clearly do. It gets back to those Southern values. Sounds like you had some pretty amazing parents, Lenora.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Growing up in the family that I came from was nothing but just wonderful, wonderful memories.
What's one of your favorite memories? We're gonna take a side tour off of leadership and culture for a second.
Okay. One of my favorite memories as I
Yeah,
was
just being
growing
a
up,
being a child growing up in the South.
oh, it was, you know, growing up in the South, and so many people have said to me, oh, about, systemic racism and how was it and what challenges were you facing? Well, and I have said to people, and they're really shocked. I did not experience that as some of my siblings. I'm the second to the youngest of 8 children, and
Wow.
so my older siblings experienced much more than I did.
Mm,
I heard about everything, but when I came up, and I when I started middle school, we were integrated. And
mm.
so, and I was on an early shift, and I was the only Black female in when I went to from middle school to high school. I was the only um, African American girl in my class.
Oh.
Yes. And there were, because I was on an early shift. My parents put me on an early shift because they didn't want me coming home so late in the day. And and the other African Americans that was in my class, they were males, and they were either football players or basketball players, and they had to, have training at the end of school. So um, I grew up, high school. So the 10th through the 12th grade, it was me, and my friends became, some of my white friends, because that's who I grew up with. So it was a little different for me,
Mm.
compared to the racism that a lot of people did experience there.
Wow.
I experienced more racism when I moved here to Michigan.
Oh, is that right?
I sure
At,
did. I
after
did.
college?
After college, no,
Yeah.
even no, when I moved here, I came here to go to college.
Oh,
So I
okay.
received my undergrad and graduate degree from U of D, and I had family that lived here. So that was the reason I moved here. So I was so used to a friendly person.
See my U of V mug here?
Oh, wow, I see it. Okay. All right.
Small world, right?
That's right. And I was just so used to hello to everyone, and I would speak sometimes to a white person, and they wouldn't speak back, and it was
Mm,
like it was different.
mm. Boy, Lenora, I wish we had another 2 hours because we could really dive into that topic, and really learn a lot. I guess as you think about that in today's context, right, with everything going on, what how do you think about it? I guess how do you not so much what advice do you have, because I know that question probably gets tiring, but just how do you think about this day and age, and what gives you pause, what gives you concern, and what gives you hope?
you know, um, as I think about, this day and age and things that we're dealing with, um, systemic racism is dear to my heart. I think that we're living in an environment where we have hoped that the needle had been moved forward. And I think there's been some recent incidents that have said there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And one of the things, as I think of culture, culture is so broad, and there are so many ways that we can look at it. But as I look within, my organization, I have so much diversity here. Diversity in the people we serve, diversity in the many counties that we impact, but diversity in our employees, and being able to really acknowledge and recognize, that the way that we are raised in our own culture is different from someone else that's of a different culture, and how can we embrace each other's culture. And that is something that we're doing right now, is really taking a look at where we are as an employer, and what do we need to do to make sure that every employee feels as though they have a voice at the table, that they feel that they are included,
Mm.
that they feel that we as an employer, that there is equity within what we're doing, and that when it comes to diversity, that we embrace every employee, no matter what their differences may be. We embrace them and we acknowledge them. So that those are some of the things that we're taking on right now, and it has started. It's in the early stage, but a couple of things that was done recently that went over so well, that was well received. The month of November is Native American, is recognized, the month of November. Just acknowledging that with all employees, we receive so much, you know, uh, where staff responded and they were so happy to see that we were doing that. Just the other day, I sent a message out because we know that today begins Hanukkah. So acknowledging that, that is their holiday. So let's say something to all staff and acknowledge them and wish them a happy holiday season, as we do. And what we're accustomed to is Christmas. You know, it's the Christmas lights, it's the Christmas gifts, where there are so many other cultures. Their holidays is just as important.
Mm,
So as an organization, that's what we are going to be doing. It's
mm.
acknowledging everyone, no matter what their difference may be.
Yeah, I love that definition that you started with, sort of embracing all cultures. You know, that is, I love how simplistic and elegant that is when it comes to the inclusion. You know, that really is. I don't have to agree with you, but I'm going to embrace it anyway. You know, I'm gonna love on you, no matter what your culture is, because
Yeah,
that is embracing.
exactly. It's so important that making sure that people feel that they are part of.
Hmm.
Mhm.
What gives you hope for the future?
What gives me hope? Well, first of all, this hope is just knowing that they have a vaccine now that's out, and I'm hoping that it's going to work for everyone, and that every individual will be able to receive that, and that we will be able to move forward and to really get back on track and have the opportunity to still make a difference in the lives of so many individuals out there that really need our service. And they need it now more than ever. The 10
Mm-hmm.
months of dealing with COVID-19, you can imagine
Yeah,
someone who has other challenges besides the challenges of just day to day.
yeah,
It
yeah.
To be there for them is so important. And
I
that's
just
what I'm
listened,
looking forward to.
I just listened to a fascinating discussion between the dean of the business school at Wharton and a professor there, and then the head of diversity and inclusion, I think was his title, for AT&T. And just a really fascinating discussion that they had. But one of the things that she said was, you know, you've got to be really good at your job, first of all, and work really hard at it. And that right now people are they're just tired. You know, it's just, we got to give each other more grace. That, you know, you've got the pandemic, you've got different social unrest. You know, people are sick of being home. That it's just a lot to carry, and people are just plain tired. And I don't know if she said this, but the feeling I got was that we just need to give each other a little bit more grace right now as we all work to get through this challenging time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And be more understanding, you know, especially employees and people in general are just really
Mm-hmm.
afraid to be out there. You know, we have to mask up and all of these kind of things. And it's a different way of living right now that we have never been accustomed to.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I'm just noticing the time's flying by. One more question, which I usually ask all of our guests, is what book would you recommend for folks out there that are interested in leadership or culture, or just maybe it's even a fiction book that you just love that helps shape your life?
So I'm going to tell you one of my favorite books that I read all the time, and someone who I really admire is Jim Collins.
Mm,
You know, From Good to Great. It's one of my best.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate your time today, and have a wonderful rest of the week and rest of the month here and rest of the year.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you.